Well, I was struck by something that happened on Sunday night, and you would have been hard pressed to find it in the newspapers, either digital or print, on Monday. And it's the fact that 28 people were killed in one of the worst strikes ever on Kiev, and hardly anyone was talking about it. And it's as if, I know people haven't forgotten about the war, but it's as if it's now wallpaper, background noise.
Yeah.
Now, Russia were firing missiles into residential areas. Obviously, they claim they were military targets. 68 missiles were launched. 29 were ballistic or hypersonic, and Ukraine simply cannot shoot those down, according to their Air Force.
They haven't got their Patriots, have they? I think that's what they need to be able to shoot them down.
And that, I'll come on to that in a minute. But I just thought about that for a moment. So that you are literally a sitting duck, aren't you? You know, and no doubt, I won't drift off to the UK, but you wonder whether we would be in exactly the same position, frankly.
Yeah.
And it then made me realize that actually Russia have stepped up their use of ballistic and hypersonic missiles. And in the first 6 days of July, they launched 58. That followed 89 in June and 65 in May. And all this stuff is lost, isn't it? Because if you think about one ballistic missile landing on London, that would be a massive event.
Yeah.
But just think about 50, 60, 70 over a month. It's ridiculous.
And these things are not, quite aside from the misery and heartache they're causing in Kiev and the rest of Ukraine, we shouldn't forget that they're also being targeted at other places in Ukraine. True. Quite apart from that, the cost of these things to the Russian economy, they're not cheap, are they, these ballistic missiles? The drones are relatively cheap. But the ballistic missiles, I think they're hundreds of thousands a piece, aren't they? They're not penny pinching things. So
no.
I agree with you. And the other thing that you have to question is if these high-tech missiles, supposedly, and the West has got equivalents, obviously, if they're so high-tech and they pinpoint accuracy to within meters of where they're meant to be hit, they couldn't possibly be going off course accidentally and hitting residential tower blocks.
That's nonsense. That's nonsense. Of course, Ukraine, I'm not saying they're making themselves a target because they didn't start this conflict, but they're obviously using drones to attack fuel installations and the like in Russia. So whether it's retaliation for that or whether it would have happened anyway, who knows? So I think you've mentioned it already, but the only defense system capable of knocking out ballistic and hypersonic missiles is the US Patriot missile system. And the way I understand it is the actual hardware is over there, but they don't have the missiles. And the missiles can only be produced under license, and that license has to come from the US or specifically the manufacturers, which are Lockheed Martin and Raytheon, I think it is the other.
Yeah.
And so the good news is when I first read about this on Monday, that licensing agreement was not forthcoming. Now Trump said at the NATO conference after a bilateral with Zelensky that he would authorize that. So let's hope, but it's not done. It's not as if it's going to happen straight away. And then you've got to build the missiles. And Ukraine reckon they can do it. But just to put it into perspective, the production lines are quite long. The cycles are quite long. Last year, only 600 of these missiles were produced, according to the US Department of Defense. Now, whether they don't tell you the truth, who knows? But either way, it's not thousands, is it?
No.
It's not thousands. And that's for the whole world.
Yeah. So well, I want to chip in here because they did. I was reading that they have licensed them to a few other countries. Japan, ironically, they've licensed them to build, and Poland, so I understand,
makes sense,
and Germany, but they've all got different types of license because they can license you to build. There's about 3 or 4 different generations of these missiles apparently, and they can license you to build whatever and to a certain degree. But none of them, neither Japan, Poland, or Germany, have managed to or had managed to produce a Patriot missile system within 3 or 4 years of having initially given the license. So that's one indication. But I would just say, because I had this debate with somebody online yesterday, that there is a big difference. The old adage that necessity is the mother of invention, I think, is very true here. And if you look at the way the Ukrainians have brought to production all of these different drones in double quick time, if you're under fire and if you're being bombed, as you quite rightly pointed out, with ballistic missiles, that takes on a whole new priority. Whereas these other, Japan and Germany don't perceive that they're in any immediate danger, so there's no rush to get them to production. Whereas I think the Ukrainians will be, the moment they get the license, they'll have so many people working on it to get it into production that we may see a quicker turnaround. And it was quite interesting, isn't it? I think that's also, you may be coming on to that, that's also a bit of a mood change from Trump, isn't it? But I'll let you carry on. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, there's not an awful lot more to add. I mean, yes, it's a mood change, but then, equally next week we could be talking about a mood swing in the other direction, not least because he had a 90-minute conversation with Putin, didn't he?
Yeah.
Around the 250-year anniversary. So that just seems odd. But last thing to say, that these missiles are very expensive. A battery plus the missiles is at least £1 billion. So Ukraine will have to fund that through the various funding packages that they have available.
Yeah.
And we've already mentioned it's a lengthy thing. And you say, well, why don't the states just sell them what they've got? And Trump basically said this, they haven't got that many. Obviously, he wasn't specific, but that's what he said. We haven't got that many. We need them for ourselves, he said.
We used a lot of them in the Gulf, wasn't he? He was talking about how they protected the aircraft carrier USS Eisenhower, I think it was, the other day, when he said that they came under attack from the Islamic Republic of Japan, which I'm not quite sure the Japanese were a bit surprised about that, but
I didn't know they'd merged.
No. But no, you're quite right. He said that they haven't got sufficient. You do wonder whether, as these other countries, Poland, Germany, and Japan, for example, whether they could produce Patriots for use in Ukraine, whether they need to, and for that matter, for the rest of Europe, we need to. You were talking earlier about Britain's defence. We need to shift our arse into gear so that we've got this sort of land-based defence against any possible attack, don't we?
Yeah, we do. So not a lot more to add. When I started thinking about this, it was going to be a plea to President Trump to issue the licenses or get the manufacturers to issue the licenses. But that's moved on. And as you say, the Ukrainians have this incredible ability to scale up and get things done. And yes, mother of invention. But it just made me think that the volume of ballistic and hypersonic missiles slamming into Ukraine has just been pretty much missed, hasn't it? It really does feel like the world is just accepting it as a side story to everything else.
Just moved on. Yeah.
So we hopefully that will change and that they'll get the support they need, and one day this conflict will end.
Do you think that'll be soon?
We've been there before, haven't we?
We have.
I still maintain, well, if we believe that there's a relative stalemate on the battlefield in the East, I still think that in the end, the economics will drag Russia down.
Yeah,
I really do. Because you cannot have a third of your economy in armaments. You just can't. In defense, rather.
So this behavior with the ballistic missiles firing, he has, hasn't he, Putin, has upped the percentage of ballistic missiles that he's using in comparison to drones quite significantly. One could argue that that's the death throes of his efforts to try and get Ukraine to give him what he wants in terms of relinquishing those areas of the Donbass that he doesn't already hold, because it'd be interesting to work out the money that he's spent on ballistic missiles over the last month alone to see how that's affecting the Russian economy. But I guess we just have to wait, won't we, really?
Yeah. It's easy for us to wait, but for the people of Ukraine, it must be an absolute horror story.